I think it's important to put the history of the Post Office or the postal services in context, because it is a survivor. And indeed, in the year 2000, it celebrated the tri-centenary. So it has been in place since, we've had a postal service since 1700. And it's changed and was capable of change over the centuries. Mails were delivered by stagecoach, by the railway system played a big part, mechanised vehicles, and we're now going through another change, and that change is a change where technology is playing a part. Obviously, we know that email and the like of text messages and other electronic means are now the preferred way for speedy communication. However, notwithstanding any technological advancement, there always has to be a pivotal place for the traditional postal services for both business and personal use. In fact, many online retailers who are at the forefront of the technological advancement are dependent on traditional postal service to deliver goods to their customers. So it is a service that has been capable of change, and I've no doubt it will continue to be capable of change, but it does require support, and it does require to do things differently. The bill today seeks to remove the price cap mechanism and provides for Comreg to undertake a review of the consequences of removing the price cap. However, this review is not due to commence until 2 years after the bill has been passed, and in the meantime it has already been indicated that the purpose of removing the cap is to allow price hikes in order to generate a cash flow for An Post. Immediate increase in the price of postal services will add to the already exorbitant cost of living and cost of doing business in Ireland, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. An Post and the post office network nationwide is in danger. We know from the various representations from post offices and postmasters, they feel vulnerable, and the reduction in the amount of state services administered through the post office network is of particular concern and threatens the survival of many. And there's plenty of evidence, and we all get it, where people show you the letter from, say, social protection, really presuming people have bank accounts, or pushing them towards receiving a payment through a bank account rather than the post office. We've also seen, for example, the kind of post and pay service introduced, where things like bill payment stamps, gift cards, etc., can be obtained in shops that are not post offices. And indeed, I know there was something like 10 supermarkets trialled in 2014. I don't know what the result of those trials were, where services were essentially, really, according to An Post, following the footfall. But in actual fact, what the post offices are telling us, or the people who run them are telling us, that this drives away the footfall that they otherwise would get. And people would do other transactions if they went to the post office. It's not just about buying a stamp conveniently. So that is something of importance. There's a lot of conversation. A lot of the conversation has focused on rural post office and the rural post office network. And of course, post office in rural Ireland are vitally important, and I just want to absolutely say that. But just as important are urban post offices, and we've seen the withdrawal, for example, of banking services in communities where you have perhaps an older population with less demand on banking services, or indeed poorer communities that have lost their banking services. So I don't think it's exclusively a rural issue. Having said that, I accept that it's a more dominant issue in rural areas. There's also the social aspect of people going to the post office to collect, for example, pensions, and indeed there is a little bit of sight on people if people haven't turned up, that plays a valuable role. It's not something that, it's not a tangible return, but it is a reality. With that in mind, we need to look long-term at the solutions to the threats that are facing the post office network and how we can best support the sector and acknowledge its vital place in Irish public life. A price hike now is a short-term fix, which may actually do even further long-term damage to the sector, but either way, it's not in isolation the answer to the post office ills. And price hikes can and will be counterproductive. We have to look at ways in which we can realistically increase the functionality of post offices so as to bring them up to date, while also giving us an opportunity to use the network to deliver services to communities that have far-reaching benefits to society. And as I said, post offices have changed over time, and indeed if you go back into the 19th century and look at how they were used, they were very much the place that people went to get information. Indeed, they're probably very close to what a website is now in terms of information, and there is a fundamental change. One such service that can be looked at in this context is the proposal that we put forward ourselves in the Social Democrats in the last election, and that is to create a viable community banking sector utilising the already existing post office network. The timing couldn't be more appropriate. The post office network in trouble and post-banking crash, recession and bailout, public trust in the traditional banks is at an all-time low. The vast majority of people, I would hazard a guess, would rather bank with publicly owned or community-owned institutions. We know that across the country, households and small businesses as well are finding it difficult to secure loans and are increasingly frustrated with a banking system that works against them and not for them. There is an issue of trust and there is an issue of responsiveness. In fact, a report commissioned by Irish Rural Link found that improved access to finance will be a vital component of continuous economic recovery and development, especially for Irish small to medium businesses and people across the country. And indeed, in the context of Brexit, we're just looking at the sectors that are most exposed, and the small to medium sector is one of those sectors, and Enterprise Ireland companies or supporter companies represent something like 5,000 different companies employing 192,000 people right across Ireland. A very important sector, and the post office service could be a support to that sector. We have roughly 1,100 post offices across the country, providing ready-made branch network with a physical presence in towns and villages up and down the island. We proposed a plan which would see both the state and central bank work with both the credit union movement and the post office network to build a strong community banking sector in Ireland. And it's quite interesting if you look at what's happened in the UK. In 2012, there was a new the relationship was extended between Bank of Ireland UK and the Royal Mail. The post office financial relationship has delivered over 2.8 million customers, a savings book of more than 17 billion, a loan book of 3 billion, and a comprehensive range of financial products, including savings accounts, mortgages, motor, home, insurance and credit cards. So here's an Irish, partly owned Irish bank providing the service that we're looking for in the banking system, or in the post office system in Ireland. And indeed it goes, that particular initiative, it's a venture between the Post Office and the Bank of Ireland UK, serves 2.8 million customers and has a savings book, as I say, of more than 17 billion. And there are 11,500 branches, which is about 10 times what we have in this country. So there's an expertise already there. It's already happening somewhere else. It can happen here. We could be looking at a scenario where people who are customers of their local post office have full credit account or current account facilities, including access to debit cards and online banking. We also propose a feasibility study to examine the possibility of post offices to offer enhanced services, possibly similar to what I have just alluded to. We've had a greater vision. We have to have a greater vision than simply keep increasing the cost of the stamp. That vision must keep pace with the changing times and provide the mechanism needed for the post offices to strengthen their valued position at the heart of Irish communities, both in rural and urban Ireland. Thank you.